First, we'll briefly look at the module. Stakeholders for the modular agricultural service providers is a very broad term. That could be, for example, these extensionistas we just talked about. And the idea is now how to estimate the dimensions, type, and financial viability of solar-powered irrigation systems. For the specific situation you are interested in, or the farmer is interested in. And if you I mean, this is the flow, how it will develop. You collect your data, you analyze agricultural production options. This we have done with the financial viability tool. You determine the water requirements. We have done yesterday. Now you select the SPIS configuration. You estimate the system size and costs. We will do right afterwards. And then later you can assess the financial viability compared to other options you have. And then you can pre-select potential suppliers, get quotes, and contract the suppliers. When you see that solar-powered irrigation system, they need a lot of data. I mean, if you have grid connection, it's much less, but with solar, you need the weather data for your location. You need water data. You need crop data. You have soil data, crop requirements, water requirements. Then you have a lot of photovoltaic pump systems, and there's additional data like rainfall, and this all you want to have an optimal sizing and optimal solution for your solar pump system. So what you do? You need meteorological data. There is some, but we talked about it yesterday, that there is about this meteorological data where you can get them. I mean, you mentioned some other ones, but this is at least for solar irradiation. Rainfall data, usually there is the airstrips, airports that have quite good data, I found in many countries. Reinhold, you are a big skeptic.
Lo mencionamos ayer, aquí por lo menos aquí a nivel nacional hay otras redes también. Ustedes ya mencionaron el explorador. INIA tiene una red de estaciones meteorológicas. En relación a datos meteorológicos, creo, por lo menos aquí en Chile, hay bastante información.
Yeah, maybe Reinhold, we will talk about it later, but you also have to look at efficiency, because you have seen you have the power of the sun, which is changing during the day, and you want to make optimal use, and you have to see that there is different configurations. You can use one system where you have the controller and the pump from the same company. They are optimized, and you get, especially for smaller systems, you have a DC motor, so you have very high efficiencies. If you use AC motors, they have much less efficiency, so you would need more panels. But this is you have to just to see what would be the best option for your because it's so much cheaper that it, in the end, it still you decide for a AC motor. Yeah, is efficiency important in pumping? It's not only the modules, but if with the modules, in some areas, I think not in Chile, but in other areas, you have so little space, so every space you need for solar panels is a lost space for agriculture. So you have to transport extra modules, you have to have more mounting systems, cable, wiring, installation time. This all you should also think about if you change if you choose the configuration. And we'll do a game afterwards with it, so we'll talk more. One other thing which is important, which we already mentioned, is you talk about water per day, not water per hour, if you talk about solar pumping. Historically, pumps usually give you the cubic meters per hour, liters per second, but with solar pumping, you look at what it does for the day, because the water flow of the pump is changing all the time, and you saw there's in the morning and in the evening there's much less energy, so there's less water flow than in at midday. So that's why it's important to not to look at the pump and say it has so many liters per second, but what does it give me for the day? One other thing is you store water, not electricity. If you store water, it's still cheaper. Also, the batteries are getting also cheaper, but it's easier. The battery you have to replace after 4, 5, 6 years, depending on what kind of quality you have. And as you have seen, that the voltage is changing during the day. So in almost all cases, these pumps and controllers, there is no battery, because the battery needs constant voltage. So try to avoid batteries, and even all pump manufacturers, if you use a battery, they will give you no guarantee if you manipulate or... So if you need solar energy for lights for your house, have a separate panel, and don't try to do everything on the same system. So storing water in an elevated tank, is the efficient means of storage. And if you have an elevated landscape, you don't even need to raise your tank, but you can put your tank higher up. We have seen it at the first place where we were. He put his tank higher up, and then you can irrigate easily. Just very briefly, if we talk about design, we see more and more floating systems. So you have the solar panels on water, and it has two main advantages. The water is cooling the panel, so you get the efficiency is higher, and the evaporation is reduced. So this is, okay, it must not be as huge as here in China, but but I have seen now that even, for example, if you have a tank like the one we saw in the first place, you could put your panels, okay, he had only 3 panels, but you can put them on, let them float on the water. Maybe some, just at the end, some new developments which we see. Before we had already what I just talked about, the solar pumping integrated. You have the controller and the pump from the same manufacturer. Now we see more and more that you get controllers, you buy controllers and pumps from different suppliers. But I tell you, you have to be very experienced so that they really work together. We see more and more, even with small systems, that we can monitor performance with sensors, with what we said, with monitoring from the internet. We find that IoT, Internet of Things, you might have heard, platforms are coming so that the farmer, for example, gets information through the platform on plant diseases in his area, on prices. He can also ask through the platform. He can send, for example, make a photo of a plant which is has a disease and send it and get some response. We see in many countries that we have what we call a one-stop shop. That means there is one supplier that makes the planning for you. He installs the pump, he does after-sales service, and he gives you the credit, for example. So you don't go to a bank, but this shop will also finance your system. And what I think what is important and probably will come, we have many meteorological stations for different areas, and I think there will also be agricultural weather stations. They might grow test fields with the 3 main crops in the area, and they can tell the farmers for every day what they have, how much they have to irrigate, because they have the weather data and they have their test fields, and then they can tell you today and tomorrow you irrigate, I don't know, 30 cubic meters per hectare, and in the next days we'll give you more information when we have our weather data calculated.
Hans, disculpa, en el caso de la plataforma IoT, el Internet de las Cosas, ¿tienes algún ejemplo, alguna link en Internet donde se puede obtener más información?
I talked to a Kenyan supplier and they are just starting now to build it up. I can talk to them if they have other areas where they get their info, where they can, where they use how they use it.
Can you give an example? What would that mean for riego solar? Internet de las Cosas?
The idea is to put farmers together who irrigate, for example, with solar, and have a sort of community of these farmers, and exchange, and maybe there is an extension service also connected, so that like with crop diseases and all that, this is all working on the platform where he also monitors his irrigation system.
Tal vez lo más parecido al Internet de las Cosas es la agricultura de precisión. Y eso en algunos grandes cultivos viñas en Chile existe.
Yeah, and this is coming down now.
De manejo de suelo y se hace monitoreo, sensores de suelo. Es lo más parecido.
Yeah, and this is coming down to smaller farmers now. Yeah, this is as internet develops so fast and the prices is not so expensive anymore. Okay, so much for design.